Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of IXIASOFT's new webinar, IXIAtalks. My name is Sydney Jones, Head of Marketing Communications here at IXIASOFT, and I will be your host. This techie webinar series covers everything from DITA to Agile document management to localization to IXIASOFT's very own CCMS. And we love DITA, so you can expect a lot of that. Episodes will be released each month and will cover a wide range of topics. We'll invite world-renowned speakers in the TechCom industry and give you an intimate look at where things have been, where they are now, and where they're headed. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping details. As audience members, you are unfortunately muted, so you can cook, clean, work, eat, exercise, do whatever you will while you listen. Today, I am not holding up the fort alone. With me is IXIASOFT's Senior DITA Content Strategist, Keith Schengili-Roberts. Hello, Keith.
Hello there.
And we have our product owner / lead UX, Tristan Lépée. Hello, Tristan.
Hi, Sydney.
Okay, so what are we talking about today is the question. We'll get into it right now with our agenda slide. So first, we're going to detail a little bit about the background of our main guest, Keith. Next, we'll be moving into a brief history of the SME as well as technical writers. Our third point will discuss evidence of change, so how the role of the SME has fluctuated over time and the reasons behind it. Next, we'll move into the future of the SME and the future for technical writers. And after that, we'll get into the second half of our presentation, which will feature the demo for our CCMS. You'll get to see our product in action. Finally, we'll wrap up with other features for the version 5.1, which is coming out in a few weeks' time. And we'll wrap it up with a few final comments and a conclusion. So without further ado, I will present to you our main speaker. This is Keith Schengili-Roberts, this wonderful photo on the left. He is who you'll be hearing in a few moments' time. Keith is our Senior DITA Content Strategist here at IXIASOFT. He's also a member of Oasis DITA Technical Committee and LW DITA Subcommittee. It's a mouthful. He's the chair of Oasis DITA Adoption Committee, and he has over 12 years of experience with DITA XML. Finally, Keith is a lecturer on information architecture at the University of Toronto. So Keith's blog, which is called DITA Writer, was started over 6 years ago, and as you can see, has more than 300,000 hits. So DITA Writer is one of the most well-known DITA blogs. Keith, can you tell me a little bit about what your blog features?
Well, I try to keep the DITA community updated as to things like upcoming conferences, any new books that have come out talking about DITA, looking at companies that are currently using DITA so that if people are looking for jobs in that are focused on DITA, they can focus companies that are actually using DITA, and for firms that are looking to or users that are trying to use DITA, a listing of things like DITA tools, DITA editors, and consulting firms that work within the area. I also throw in things like interviews with people who are working within the sector who are movers and shakers, and or not just but practitioners who have their own experiences to convey. And again, it's done to try to bring the DITA community together and to share knowledge where possible.
Super. Thank you very much, Keith. So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of our presentation here. So Keith, I will let you take it away with SMEs and technical writing, a brief history.
Cool. Okay, great. Well, let's get started. So part of the thesis for this overall webinar is that essentially subject matter experts, which the short form is SME, not only are used to write the docs, but are now coming back to the fore and are being asked to contribute content more and more. And this is just going to be a sort of a quick historical look at that. So as I say here, back when technical documentation could be characterized as a cottage industry, and this is primarily late 19th century, early 20th century manuals. So some of these, by the way, are all examples you can find on either archive.org or Project Gutenberg. and they're great reading. Let me tell you. and one thing that we'll come across is that these manuals, and you can't see my air quotes, but these manuals were very typically created as one-offs. They were written typically by the experts for other experts. And as they say here, if the user was lucky, they would have gone through an editing pass, because many of the time that was not done. So they're very idiosyncratic, and it was clear that there needed to be people who could intervene to help better communicate what was being put across.
Is that fellow on the right-hand side wearing a swimsuit?
And lots of medals.
Oh, very interesting outfit.
Presumably swimming medals.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Keith.
So and again, I want to emphasize the earliest technical writers, they really were subject matter experts. The first initial instructors who were teaching technical writing were typically English professors within the States who were teaching courses to their engineering students on how to clearly document and convey their creations. This was, part of a name for better literacy among engineers back in the primarily early 20th century. But there was also the need for understanding that engineers needed to better communicate and that they needed to better understand the increasingly non-engineering audiences that they were writing for. And you can see here with one of the quotes I have from Samuel Earle, dating back to 1916, this is something that's going to be close to the heart of anybody using DITA these days. Write simply and clearly, be accurate and careful, and above all, put yourself in the other fellow's place. Remember the reader. Now this started to change in earnest with the advent of, it really came to the fore in World War II, but also with consumer products and military equipment that simply became too complex to be understood at a glance. And again, here's another great examples from primarily from archive.org. I mean, yeah, you really wanted to know how to use the portable flamethrower M2-2 properly. The right end was pointing the right way. The medium tank M4A3, you have to remember that not a lot of people necessarily during World War II had a lot of experience driving a car, never mind a tank. So these types of things were, again, it was how to provide concepts and instruction on how to use these complex devices, and the engineers then had people intercede on their behalf to better convey the material that the troops in the field needed to know. So technical writing was recognized as a distinct profession during World War II, and at this point, non-SME writers began to enter into the mix. So the question now is that what we're finding is that is this still the case today? What we're finding is that the task of many technical writers is to simply interview the SME, obtain independent information about the product, and then write it all down. That has been the status quo certainly since I entered the business over a quarter century ago. And yeah, as I say here, I realize it's not that simple, but it kind of covers the essentials. And the question is this still the case today? And arguably, I would say no, things are beginning to change. And what we're beginning to see is that in some cases, the SMEs continue to be effectively the lead writers. For example, when it comes to things like API documentation, programmers are expected to provide much of the content, and this makes sense. They are the experts on this, and it's hard to convey some of these context to an intermediary. You might as well sort of, cut to the chase. It is the SMEs talking to other SMEs directly. In this case, the technical writer comes in and tries to make sure that the communication flows as easily and freely as possible. In particular, the advent of agile documentation process within small software development teams means that in some circumstances, the SMEs really had to write the content because there wasn't enough essentially bodies to make it happen otherwise. So what I've discovered in some of the research and surveys that I've done and read is that there definitely appears to be a shift in current technical communications, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that. So here's the big one right here. We're definitely seeing a downward trend going on with technical writer job listings within the United States. Now this particular chart shows the past 5 years worth of technical writer job listings for Indeed.com. And you can see that certainly there are seasonal cycles. There's a significant spike back in 2015, but the overall trend, that's the straight line, is that there are fewer postings for actual technical writers now than there were back even 5 years ago. And when I look at some of the reasons for why this is, now part of this is that there seems to be greater diversity in the types of related jobs that are coming up in technical writing. For example, there are more jobs for things like listings for content strategists, information architects, technical content specialists, information developers, data information architects, that type of thing. Things that, that roles that are being specified now which may have been called technical writer or something allied to it several years ago and are now beginning to, take away from the core listings for technical writers. So the term technical writer seems to be slowly eroding in favor of some of these other terms. Now, having said that, if you're doing a job search, technical writer is still the thing, the main term you want to look for, but keep these other ones in mind. The other thing is that, increased efficiency brought about by database or XML-based systems and related software means that less writers are often needed to do the same amount of work that had been done previously. The other thing which is also evident is that there's still considerable outsourcing of technical writing jobs, primarily to places like India. In fact, India is, I need to double check this, but it's either has the second or third most DITA proficient technical writers in the world after the States. The other thing is that, the other thing that's quite evident is that SMEs are also contributing more content directly into the mix. And again, this brings up, why is this? Why are SMEs contributing more content? And some of the reasons include the demand and pace for agile-based teams is forcing more information to come upstream. It's also, frankly, easier thanks to workflows within CCMSs like the IXIASOFT CCMS. And technical writers, they still arguably have a role within this within this type of workflow, but it's becoming more editorial than that of a pure writer. Now, it's not just me who's thinking this. I've shown you some evidence, but I think one of the more interesting posts I ran across recently that underscored this way of thinking was one I saw from Tom Johnson from I'd Rather Be Writing blog. And this was actually from a blog he posted at the end of 2017 where he says, I think more engineers and other specialists will be writing docs. Because the information is so technical and specialized, tech writers will have a hard time developing the content. Instead, tech writers might play more specialized roles in editing, publishing, and curating content. Besides providing value in publishing, how exactly will generalists provide value in a world of increasing specialization? So basically, in this scenario, technical writers run the risk of becoming those who simply make the documentation look pretty. How can we fix this? Well, one possible answer is that technical writers, and this was hinted at in Tom's quote, is that technical writers can add more value by focusing on the content experience for users, as well as better being able to handle structured content. One way this can be accomplished is by structuring the content using DITA, and there's all sorts of benefits that come from doing this. You get a multi-channel publishing that comes with a DITA-based publishing workflow. Content reuse equals content consistency. This also equates to lower localization costs, and bite-sized content is much easier for users to digest when they're looking something up in the field, and a car breaks down or they're trying to fix a part on whatever mechanical device they're looking at. Far better to get a directed task topic explaining exactly what to do, or a troubleshooting topic, rather than getting the beginning of a chapter that focuses on the entirety of the thing that they're actually working with. So better focused documentation that meets the needs of the users when and where they need that information. And I'd argue that DITA topics are really ideal for conveying this type of information. They're typed and they're structured, and they convey information exactly when and where needed. So concepts look at what is a given feature all about. Task topics provide information on a feature in a stepwise manner. References look at the values and settings of a given feature, and the troubleshooting topic type is there for those who have a specific problem, and then it outlines how to fix it. And it's also worth keeping in mind that as useful as this is for the end user to find nice and easy bite-sized chunks of information, it's also great for review purposes for the SMEs. So instead of reviewing an entire manual or chapter, the review can be done at the topic level, which is, let's face it, much easier. When used within a CCMS, workflow can ensure that one or more SMEs can approve a topic before it goes out the door. Many companies have already opted for this approach, particularly in areas where verification is key, such as in the medical device sector, for example. But and let's face it, there are also very few SMEs who want to learn DITA, and then there's always exceptions to the rule, but SMEs often see learning structured authoring as an impediment to simply getting the work done. Some may want to work with standards that they're already familiar with instead, such as, for example, Markdown. Ultimately, it's best for the technical writers and for the company if content can be authored in DITA, if at all possible, from the start. So this is where we begin to get out of me talking, what the background of all of this is, and beginning to look at, what IXIASOFT is looking to do about it. So where do we go from here? So we think that increased collaboration is really the key thing. Guiding SMEs on content with a focus on what the user needs is really key to adding value as a technical writer. So for example, creating the structure for the topics required to build a chapter or document. This includes typing the content, such as concept, task, reference, troubleshooting, the standard DITA topic types. And also, consistent phrasing. We're not just talking reuse here, to help with things like localization. There's also a need to make things easy to, make it easy for SMEs and light users, people who may only need to contribute content occasionally, to author directly in DITA. The rather heavy, complicated process of authoring in DITA is an issue that's been long recognized by major DITA editor vendors, and there's been a lot of effort put towards trying to make things easier and more simpler for those who are not DITA experts to actually write content directly in the structured environment that is DITA. So thanks to the new developments in the industry, such as with our own IXIASOFT CCMS 5.0, which came out quite recently, SMEs can now contribute directly to creating, editing, and reviewing content on any device. Our product is designed with the light user in mind, is based wholly on DITA, though with all of that, all of its complexity hidden. And light users can now create a map, they can create a topic, they can edit a map, and they can also move an object to the next stage in the workflow.
Thank you so much, Keith. That was extremely informative and very valuable presentation for both SMEs and technical writers. So now we'll be moving on here, and Tristan will take the reins. He will be giving us the explanation behind several screenshots for the demo that we'll be getting into. So without further ado, we'll start with the assignments page.
Thanks, Cindy. When you have the IXIASOFT CCMS installed, light users are directed to a web page where they can log into the system.
So this looks exactly like a regular web page. Why is that?
Yeah, it looks like just a regular web page, and that's because it is a regular web page. CCMS Web is available any place, anywhere, and to any device that you use to connect to the web. Your user logs into the system and is presented with the My Assignments page. This is the My Assignments view for CCMS Web. It's a staging area for the SME where they are given a list of topics and possibly maps, depending on their access privileges, they can work on. The SME only sees the content that they have been assigned to review. As they finish with their work on the content, the list of available topics would shorten, unless all the topics have been assigned to them to review in the meantime. The icons on the left shows whether a topic that has been assigned to the SME is currently available to work on. The one at the top is unlocked and ready to be worked on. And the one underneath is locked. That means that someone else is currently working on it, possibly another SME. Under the context column appears a breadcrumb that describes where the topic belongs in terms of map it is in, followed by the title of the topic. This column shows the state of the work on this topic by the SME. In this case, everything is set to work, but when more than one topic is actively being worked on, it changes to open. The due date is the deadline for a topic which has to be finished. And now this is where things get interesting, as this column shows the actions that are available for this topic. In this case, they are the Move button, which can be used to direct and finish topic to the next stage in the workflow, and the Edit button, which is what we are most interested in. There are a couple of other icons associated with the other topics, but we can come back to those later. Let's click on the Edit button to see where it takes us. This is a topic view within CCMS Web. The SME is looking at the sample topic that has been assigned to them to review. Let's have a look to some of the more important features. Here is a breadcrumb, same as what we saw in the previous view. And these are the editing controls. We are using Oxygen Web Component, a very robust DITA-aware editing tool that comes bundled with this product. The details section provides more info on the topic, including who assigned it, when it was last worked on, and who made the changes, and last but not least, the actual topic for the SME to work on. As anyone who knows DITA can tell, this is a task topic. Despite the complexity of tags being used here, it is all under the hood. None of the complexity of data is here, and instead of what you get is a world-like interface. Let's say the SME realizes that you cannot log into the Acme interface using the Vebulon 5000, but the more recent Vebulon 6000. That is an easy change to make. Now the SME realizes that there is an important prerequisite step that's missing. Easy. That's also a minor typo of the first line. It shouldn't be Acme, but an Acme. Perfect. The SME has now reviewed the content and everything else looks good. To save this work and send it to the server, the SME just has to click on the check-in button to the top right. The dialog appears and the SME can then detail the changes that they made. Once done, they click check-in. We return to the topic page, but now we get an additional move button. Having reviewed the topic and submitted their changes, the SME can now choose to either click the move button to progress this topic to the next stage in the workflow, or continue to edit the topic by clicking the edit button. Let's assume the SME is done and they click the move button. The SME can now choose to change the status of the topic. It is now changed to next review. They also get to pick who, from a pre-populated drop-down list of valid reviewers, gets to look at it and work on it next. Once done, the SME clicks the Move button. This brings us back to the My Assignments view, and the topic called Login to the Acme interface is now gone, having been moved to GSmith's My Assignments view to review. If we do a sort on the first column, we can view all of the types of actions available for SMEs to work on. The last major feature we want to show you today is collaborative review. In this case, we just have a few. You can see that there is a different icon showing these items are different from the topic we previously edited. To get started, we click the pencil icon to the right. At a glance, you can see that there is not the same as the topic edit we saw earlier. Collaborative review allows more than one SME to comment on topics at the same time. In this case, the SMEs are not actually editing the topics, but are commenting on them. The SME highlights content within the view and the comments on it, which appears over here. In this case, we have comments from two distinct SMEs, which are highlighted differently. Let's say the SME has been asked to review the content along with at least one other colleague of certain documentation. In this case, our SME realizes that DITA CMS is the old name for our product, which is now called IXIASOFT CCMS. In collaborative review, you don't directly edit the content. Instead, you comment or annotate what's there. So your SME selects the open text and a small pencil icon pops up. When the SME clicks on the pencil icon, a small dialog appears where the SME can add a comment. When the SME clicks Save, the text in the comment is added to the annotations column to the right, and its number is incremented by 1. In the way, the SME can go through all the content that they have been asked to review and comment anything they think needs to be changed or added to. There is no save process for the whole page. Each comment is saved incrementally within the collaborative review, and other reviewers can view and potentially review your comments. When the SME is done, all they have to do is click the IXIASOFT logo at the top left, which takes them back to the My Assignment screen. They can then click Move, which routes the comments to a technical writer who can then incorporate those comments effectively.
Thank you so much, Tristan. Keith, I think this slide's for you.
Yeah, so I mean, now that you've had a chance to look at what IXIASOFT is doing, and being able to have a chance to digest what I was saying earlier, you're probably wondering, and of course the assumption here is that it's mainly technical writers who are and their managers who are looking and viewing this particular presentation. You're probably wondering, what are the implications of this for technical writers? And what we're arguing for is that technical writers are there's still very much a role for them within this environment, and that they're able to now concentrate on what they do best, communicate to users and become more effective mediators for providing information. Yes, the SMEs are certainly there, and they will be writing more information up front, but it is still up to technical writers to ensure that this information is clear, is concise, and correct.
So now we'll be moving into a few of the features with the 5.1, which will be released in a few weeks' time. Keith, would you like to explain this slide?
Yeah, sure. Right off the first bullet point is something that people have been asking for a very long time, what we're calling content level security. This essentially allows writers to assign topics to review that only those reviewers will ever get to see. So essentially, there are restrictions placed on content in terms of who will be able to see, edit, and review them. This is a new feature and something that we know a lot of people have been asking for. We also have the ability right now for SMEs to create and edit maps, and this is not something that you may want all of your SMEs to necessarily have as something that they can do, but but if you know that a SME knows how to to structure the content, it's a way and means for them to actually work with that. And by the way, I shouldn't say the content level security is coming. It is in fact already here with version 5.
Right.
What's coming soon in 5.1, you can actually catch a glimpse of one of the mini dashboard feature, which it shows at a glance the type of work the SME or light user is actually being asked to do. So that nice little chart right at the top give them a sense. Okay, here's what I'm being asked to work on. They also will have the ability to create what are known as stub topics for maps. So basically, we know that, for example, there will be a topic needed on to cover features A, B, and C, and we know the names of those features. Or maybe we don't know the names of those features. We might just want to call them feature A, feature B, feature C. And then once we have names, once we know what can then be filled in, you can then fill in content into what those those actual stub topics. You'll also be able to compare between two different snapshots of content. So you take a look at this draft, you take a look at this draft, this other draft, what's changed, and then you can then determine, well, wait a second, is that good change or not, things like that. You can also set due dates within the CCMS web. That currently is done with the desktop version of the program, but that will be coming natively to the web interface. And believe me, so many more features. As somebody who's being asked to now curate and guide the content creation for all of this stuff, it's a lot of work for IXIASOFT's own technical writers to cover what's coming. So and that's coming up in I believe just over a month's time.
Thank you so much, Keith. That is very exciting. So Tristan, Keith, thank you so much for being a part of our very first IXIAtalks. I think it has been a success. If you are interested in reading more about our CCMS, you can check out our blog at www.ixiasoft.com. We also have a section there dedicated to our webinars, so you can check out past webinars as well as this one. You can also reach Keith on Twitter, LinkedIn. Thank you everyone for joining us, and our next webinar, which will be presented by our very own Sharon Figuera, called Getting the Review You Want, will be airing November 1st. So we very much look forward to seeing you there, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Sydney.
Bye, folks.